Hi everyone, here's your instructional video for week 7. Again, I'm sorry we aren't in person. We would be actually doing some modeling of some of these project learning tree lessons, including the birds and worms. That was an example in your week 6 folder. So I am providing this video to helpfully walk you through what you're going to be doing this week. It is a little more complicated, and so you're going to have to watch this video for sure and get the instructions, get further instructions. So this week you're going to be working on your very first real science lesson. This is going to be an outdoor lesson. And so you're going to actually create a lesson that aligns with the, let me get back to our sorry, gets back, that aligns with some standards from NGSS and literacy standards. So if you look under week 7, you will see that this is the assignment and here are the instructions. You also have a template that you're going to be completing for this. So this is the template, and you'll see that I've provided the standards for this. You will have to actually address the safety information here. So remember, this is an outdoor lesson. So when you think about planning this, remember you're planning for outdoors. So you're going to have to address things like the ethical treatment of living organisms, allergies, natural hazards that might be students might encounter. And then I've provided the literacy and the science standard that we're going to write these lesson plans for. So this science standard is the one that you need to be familiar with, and you need to be prepared to actually align the activity with. So as you look through the project learning tree activities in your text, you're going to want to find one that actually fits with the standard. I'll address the reading standard in just a minute. So your task is to then look through the activity, pick one, come up with at least 1 or 2 learning targets. These sometimes are included. They might be called objectives, but you might have to modify them a little bit from the activity to fit better with this standard. So again, our purpose in this first lesson is to take existing curriculum and modify it for what our needs are. And our needs are to teach these 2 standards to our students in this lesson. We're going to incorporate literacy because, as you know, elementary teachers don't have a lot of time for science. So we're going to actually use the science content to teach some literacy. And so we're going to use trade books, which are picture books, or think nonfiction children's literature. And we're also going to do writing, even though it's not in our standard. We're going to have them actually use a notebook page to do some writing. The last part you have to complete is to outline what are the materials you're going to need for your students to do this lesson. So this is the template you're going to fill out. You're going to need some resources to do that. So going back to our Canvas site, you will see that I have added lots of resources for week 7, and that's because you're going to need to do a couple of things. So last week you should have looked at some of the examples, and so using those examples, again, some of those are in the Google Drive under week 6. You're going to find first a trade book. So a trade book, again, is a children's lit book. And so I have some trade book resources here. So here are some trade books that were recommended by the National Science Teacher Association. Here's a link to some electronic trade books. This is just to give you an idea of kind of what you're looking for, right, in terms of trade books. There's also an article on here about using trade books, bringing back books for science. And so then you're going to try to find a book, a children's book that aligns with the lesson that you're doing in PLT. Now, some of the PLT activities actually have a book already suggested, some don't. So you might have to go and find one of your own. Just like if you look at the birds and worms activity, there was a book called Bird Beaks that was used to incorporate information in that lesson. So after you pick your trade book, you're going to explain that or describe it here. The other thing is you're going to describe a notebook page that you're going to use. And so if you looked at the birds and worms activity in week 6, you'll see there was a notebook page. So science notebook pages are basically created almost like a graphic organizer that facilitates students, completing information about the investigation they're doing or the activities they're doing. We used one earlier in the term when we did the adopt a tree. That could be a notebook page. Many of the activities already have a page in them, a notebook page that you could just copy and use, or you can create your own. So it depends on your activity and how you want to do that. You can create your own, but you are going to have it. And so here, this week, you're just going to describe it, but next week, when you plan your lesson out fully, you will actually have to create the notebook page. So that's your assignment for this week. And I'm going to go over the to-do list just because there's a couple of other things to consider here for week 7, sorry. So make sure you watch the video, reading for week 7. So I also want you to do the reading and watching of the resources that cover the 5E instructional model. We touched on this briefly early in the term when we were modeling lessons. Now you're going to actually use this in your lessons. So you're going to have to get familiar with it. And so look at those resources that are under week 7. One of them is a lesson to watch, and just kind of try to pay attention, see if you can see where those 5Es are being implemented in the lesson. And then look over the science notebook and the science trade book resources I didn't point out. So for the science notebooks, there's also some resources that are available for you to take a look at. And so you can see down here, there's a PowerPoint, there's actually an article, there's some website resources on science notebooks, there's an interactive science notebook link, and then there's actually a link to a actual scientist notebook, Tesla's notebook. There's a really great children's trade book that is scientists and their notebooks, and it has notebook entries from lots of different scientists. It's a good one to look up, but and I have copies of it. I usually bring it to class, but I don't have it electronically. So you're going to just kind of, what are science notebooks? How are they used? What are some formats? And think about how you're going to design that page and explain or describe it here. Okay, so back to our to-do list. So those are the resources. Oh, let me point out, just here are the 5E resources. Those are the ones that are under read, watch, and listen. Okay, back to our to-do list. So here are the instructions for the planning, and the template is also linked here, and that is all for this week. That's your assignments. Wish we could be in person and talking about this in person, but hopefully that gives you the information you need. Feel free to reach out if you have questions, and I will see you on video next week. Have a good rest of your week.